Last night, some drivers went home happy, some just thrilled to survive. Others went home dejected, disappointed. Today, I want to take a harder look at some of the key players from last night's Daytona 500. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Late last night when I was still at the racetrack, I uploaded my quick thoughts on this year's Daytona 500. And if you watched that video, you'll know that I had to end it kind of abruptly because my camera battery was dying and I forgot to charge the spare overnight. That's on me, that's my bad. So I wasn't able to go quite as in-depth on some of the key players as I'd like to. So now that I'm back home in my studio, camera is fully charged, I want to take a hard look at some of the key players from last night's race and sort them into 3 different categories. The first category is the woo category, named after the sound the whole crew makes when they're doing the hat dance in victory lane and they take the photo, woo, click. If you had a great Daytona 500, if you had a great speed week, if you went home happy, you're in the woo category. The next category is the some good stuff happened, but it wasn't enough to necessarily outweigh the bad. The third category is the rough category. Not like the sound a dog makes or like sandpaper. No, rough, like we struggled. Or something happened, maybe beyond our control, that ended our race early. Who knows? I'm not going to place all 40 drivers into these categories, but there were a handful of key players that I want to shine a spotlight on tonight. Let's start with the woo category. These are drivers who had a fantastic speed weeks or a fantastic Daytona 500 result. So begin with Travis Pastrana. First NASCAR Cup Series start, he qualifies in on speed Wednesday night, survives his dual race, and ran a resilient Daytona 500. He got a penalty at one point for driving through too many pit boxes, knocked him off sequence and caused him to lose the draft. He went a lap down, but he was resilient. He got that lap back. He was in the lead draft late. Now, he was in the middle of the wreck on the final lap that ended the race early, but it's hard to say if that was really his fault. He did get a tap from Almirola. Pastrana said afterwards that he never felt his car slide or jump like that all day long, so perhaps it just wasn't set up securely enough. Maybe Almirola gave him too risky of a shot. Who knows? Even though he was involved in the last lap crash, he still gets credited with an 11th place finish in his Cup Series debut on the biggest stage. So I'd consider this a successful weekend for Travis Pastrana. He was the best finishing 2311 car, and I believe the second best finishing Toyota. That's pretty great. Woo! Speaking of Toyota, the next driver to enter the woo category is Christopher Bell, who finished 3rd. Christopher Bell has been pretty blunt. He does not enjoy super speedway racing. His results at Daytona have been especially bad. The oval, I should say. He did win his first cup race on the Daytona road course, but that's a completely separate deal. On the oval, Christopher Bell had finished worse than 30th in 3 straight races coming into this year's 500. But he showed great speed Thursday night in his dual race. In the final laps, he and Bubba Wallace were able to push through a pack of Fords, and Bell was side by side with Logano for the dual race win. Came up just short. Pretty great start to Speed Week. And then in the 500, he survives the chaos and the carnage to finish 3rd. That is by far Christopher Bell's best Daytona finish, so he goes in the woo category. Of course, I gotta put Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the woo category. He was quite literally saying woo while taking photos in victory lane afterwards. I touched on this some last night, but Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has a place in the NASCAR Cup Series. Sure, there are jokes, there are memes. Recky Spinhouse. He's earned some of those nicknames in the past thanks to mistakes he has made on the racetrack. But he has also proven to be well above average at the super speedways. He won 2 super speedway races in 2017 when he was still with Roush. He's come up close a number of times since then. I think it was Talladega in 2020. He and Ryan Blaney, photo finish across the line. Daytona last year, the 500, he was up, I think, in the top 5 late. I think we can call him a super speedway specialist. And that kind of driver is valuable to the right team. There are 5 super speedway races now on the regular season schedule if we include Atlanta, which I think we have to. And under the current rules, if you win 1 race in the regular season, you're in the playoffs. Unless we get more than 16 different winners, but that's unlikely. It's possible, but unlikely. So if you're a team like a JTG Doherty, or I'd say a Legacy Motor Club, or an RFK, or a Front Row, or maybe even Colleague, they might be a little better, I don't know. But if you're a team like that, a mid-pack team, a B- C tier team who knows they're almost certainly not going to win the championship this year, if you're a team like that, your goal is just to make the playoffs. making the playoffs would be a big win. That is a successful season. All you need to do is win a super speedway, like Ricky did last night, or a road course. So that's why Colleague, they brought AJ Allmendinger on full time this year, because he's probably going to win a road course race this year and make the playoffs. Front Row Motorsports, that's part of why they're so happy with Michael McDowell, because he's an above average road course racer and an above average super speedway racer. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., not special on the intermediates, not really special on the short tracks, maybe the dirt track at Bristol. He did finish second there a couple years ago, right? He's most places, but on the super speedways, he's in that upper tier. He's maybe not in the top tier, like with Denny Hamlin or Joey Logano or maybe Ryan Blaney. He's in the tier just below that, where I put, Eric Jones, who's won on super speedways before. I might put McDowell in that tier. He's in that tier of drivers who you have to keep an eye on every time we go to Daytona, Talladega, or now Atlanta. So a specialist like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has value to the right team in the NASCAR Cup Series under the current playoff rules. And last night, JTG's faith in him paid off in a major way. So Ricky Stenhouse, woo! All right, my next category is the category. Sorry, I know I'm making a lot of weird noises in this video. You're just gonna have to deal with it. Daniel Suarez fits into this category because he finished 7th in the Daytona 500. I mean, that's a pretty good finish. Car was relatively unscathed, I believe. I mean, he got pieces here and there of some of the action, but he was in decent shape. I mean, a lot of teams would be happy with that. But Daniel Suarez had a couple of lowlights this week. Going back to his dual race where, just a badly timed, poorly lined up bump draft on the backstretch cost Kyle Busch his primary car. Not a great start to Speedweek, certainly a bad mistake that you would expect a veteran driver. Suarez is basically a veteran driver now. He's in his 30s. I mean, he's been around, this is what, his 6th, 7th full-time Cup season? 7th, yeah. You would hope he wouldn't make that mistake, certainly not in a qualifying race. So not a great start to the weekend. And then at the end, or towards the end of the Daytona 500, he got loose, it appeared, coming out of turn 4. Maybe he got a tap from the 84, but he definitely got tight or got loose on his own first and spun out, which brought out the caution that set off the first overtime restart. I just think going forward now, if you have Daniel Suarez around you in the pack, I think you're going to be a little nervous. I think Daniel Suarez, the reputation he earned himself this week, is going to cost him some drafting partners in the future, I believe. So while a 7th place finish in the Daytona 500 is pretty great, pretty good, some of the mistakes he made, the incidents he was involved in, I don't know, might hurt his reputation going forward. So I'm going to put Suarez in the God, I need to stop doing that. I also want to put both Roush, Fenway, Keselowski drivers in this category. Chris Buescher ends up 4th. That's fantastic. Brad Keselowski ends up 22nd with a destroyed race car. Not so fantastic. Overall, those results balance out for an average performance for RFK, but the actual performance of the cars on track was virtually unmatched. When the 6 and the 17 got lined up near the front, they could go better than any other tandem in the field. It took Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, and William Byron, and I think even someone behind them, to push past the 2 RFK Fords. And even then, they only got shuffled back to like 5th or 6th in the closing laps. It's not like they went all the way to the back of the pack. They found a line. Those Fords were bad, fast. Really, the problem was that there was only 2 of them, and there really weren't any other Fords at that point in the race near the front. Logano hadn't gotten up there just yet. And I'm not sure Joey Logano would be the kind of guy to work with a couple of Roush Fords anyways. The results were mixed, but the speed was very encouraging. I think RFK is hoping to be this year's Trackhouse. I think we all thought Trackhouse would be a little better next season. They added Ross Chastain. The next gen car was supposed to even the playing field, but I don't think anyone expected Trackhouse to win multiple races, to get all the way to the championship 4. They vastly exceeded expectations, and I don't think RFK is expecting to make a championship 4 run, but I think they're hoping to be that surprise team from the middle of the pack that no one sees coming. Brad Keselowski is still very much in his prime, but he's what, 38, 39, maybe not for much longer. It's go time. And Chris Buescher, I think, is just entering his prime. And both Buescher and Keselowski seem to have better speed at the end of 2022. Chris Buescher won the Bristol night race in the fall, and Brad Keselowski had a couple top 10s in the final week. So they ended 2022 strong. They started 2023 off kind of They obviously missed the show at the Clash. But at Daytona, the high banks, high speeds, their bread and butter, they were once again super fast. Just didn't quite get the results I felt they deserved. Now for the final category. These guys had a rough night, or a rough speed week overall. Let's start with Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin is always a favorite to win the Daytona 500. He's won 3 of them since 2016. But Hamlin was really never a factor in any of the races, any of the events this week. Single car qualifying Wednesday night, the Toyotas were irrelevant. It was all about the Chevys, the Hendrick Chevys in particular, and the Fords. And then, he ran fine in his dual race, but never really controlled the race. He finished 9th in his dual. He tweeted afterwards, "Oh, I love my car." And I think that was to kind of assure his fans that, hey, I know I didn't get to the front tonight, but I'll be there on Sunday. Don't worry about me. I'm Denny freaking Hamlin. Then Sunday came, and once again, the 11 just never really seemed that dominant. I mean, the Toyotas had a run here or there where they got to the lead and they controlled one of the lines for a short period, but Denny Hamlin was not one of the dominant cars. Yes, he was in the lead draft late, but got caught up in the final wreck, so he didn't collect any stage points. I found that crazy. I went back and looked at the stage 1 and stage 2 results. 0 stage points for Denny Hamlin at Daytona, and he wrecked out on the last lap. Finished 17th, my bad. Denny Hamlin was just uncharacteristically absent from this year's Daytona 500, so I gotta put him in the rough category. He went home with a destroyed car. This next one's kind of low-hanging fruit, but I want to talk about him because I think he did enter this race as a favorite. Chase Elliott also did not have an inspired speed week. He won 2 super speedway races last year. He won Talladega in the fall. He also won one of the Atlanta races. So yeah, we expected him to be a contender in this race, and he got caught up, unfortunately, in the first big wreck. Never really had a chance to race for anything worthwhile, unfortunately. A 38th place finish right out the gate stings. Also, Wednesday night during single car qualifying, Chase Elliott was also off the pace compared to his teammates. Remember Bowman, Larson, Byron? Top 3. Chase Elliott was down in 14th. Not sure what exactly happened there. I wasn't too worried about it. It's more about how you race, not how you qualify when you're out there by yourself. But thanks to an early wreck, we never got to see what Chase Elliott really had. So yeah, just kind of a rough weekend, unfortunately. And the last pick for the rough category is Kyle Busch. Gotta talk about Kyle Busch some more. Walking around the track Sunday morning, talking to a lot of different fans, also talking to some folks in the media, Kyle Busch was a sneaky popular pick to win, even though he was in a backup car after getting wrecked in his dual race by the aforementioned Daniel Suarez. So that already was a rough start to Speedweek, and it really was not Kyle Busch's fault. He just got hit in a really bad spot. He seemed happy with the backup car though in both Friday and Saturday practice sessions, and he had speed on Sunday, led laps. He was up in the lead draft, pushing Joey Logano towards the race lead when he got swept up in the last lap crash. So Kyle Busch, yeah, I have to put him in the rough category. Neither wreck were his fault. Kyle Busch ran a very smart, a very solid strategy all week long, except for maybe that one restart where he and Austin Dillon just did not get hooked up right. But he'd worked well with his teammate to get the lead originally. He'd worked well in his dual race to get up front. He was still there at the end, even without his teammate in the 500. Just 2 wrecks that weren't his fault. That hurts. Especially after the clash, where he was also in contention to win until he got spun by someone. Again, just out of his control. Kyle Busch, I'm gonna go off on a brief tangent here. Kyle Busch is still known as the bad guy. He wears the black hat. He's the driver everyone loves to hate. Hot take, I think Kyle Busch is actually one of the fairest, most respectful drivers in the Cup Series today. He hasn't always been. I know Dale Jr. fans are gonna scream at me about Richmond 15 years ago. I think if you look at the last couple of years, ask a lot of other drivers in the field. I've heard drivers say it. Kyle Busch actually races pretty fairly with most of his competitors. He's not driving through people every week. He's not the one making mistakes on these super speedways. I actually think Kyle Busch is one of the cleanest racers right now in the NASCAR Cup Series. And these first 2 races, 3 races if you include, Clash, Dual, Daytona 500, he's been bullied. Bullied by Logano, bullied by Suarez, taken out at the end of the 500 by someone else's mess. Kyle Busch has been getting hit a lot the last few weeks, and that's why I have to put him in the rough category. But yeah, small tangent. Kyle Busch, y'all can continue to boo him. I understand his personality. Absolutely. A little abrasive, not for everyone. But the days of Kyle Busch being a dirty, over-aggressive driver, I think are long gone. I think they're in the past. That's just my opinion. Anyway, there we go. Breaking down some key players from Sunday night's Daytona 500 into 3 goofy categories that I just made up while I was bored on my flight home this morning. But that is going to do it for this video. Leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree with any of my assessments. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. If you're new and you love NASCAR, hit that subscribe button. And thank you to my Patreon supporters for your continued support. Full week of content ahead, y'all. I've filmed some stuff at Daytona that I still have not shared with you. I've partnered up on a cool new project that I think we'll be announcing here in the next few days. Might have some guests on the channel channel this week. Not entirely sure. Got to work out some schedules, but a lot is coming. A lot is right around the corner. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the support. I'll see you in the next episode.